What do China's rebellious youth and any toddler you know have in common? Well, they may both love the same precocious British piglet.
I'm Peppa Pig.
And in both cases, Peppa's appeal has something to do, I suspect, with her lack of respect for authority figures.
What's the attic?
It's where we keep all our old things.
Like you, Grandpa Pig.
Peppa is such a rebel, in fact, that at one point, videos and hashtags featuring her were reportedly scrubbed from the social media app Douyin, the Chinese TikTok. While in China, Peppa became a hip accessory, tattoo subject, and gangster icon, in the US and elsewhere, Peppa is taking over. The British animated series, told from the perspective of a 4-year-old with, as producer Phil Davies put it, a rather fiery personality, has been translated into 40 languages and has an estimated net worth of nearly $1.5 billion. So, it's safe to assume that most kids aged 2 and up know Peppa. And this makes Peppa a fascinating phenomenon to study, I think. Because the very earliest stories we hear are so fundamental in shaping worldview. Not only how we see the world, but even our identities are formed in part by narrative, by the stories we're told and tell ourselves. So examining a character that millions of preschoolers are obsessed with today might give us an inkling of what they and our world will be like in the future. Now, Peppa, unlike many other children's characters, is not an extraordinary child in extraordinary circumstances. She's just a regular little girl, or rather, piglet, and she has all the problems toddlers her age do.
Goodness me.
As kids, we're told, share.
I was playing with that ball.
Be nice.
No, George. This game is just for big girls.
Don't show off.
And this letter is mine. It is very, very important.
There are just so many rules to growing up. Learning to function in society is not easy, and Peppa's plots reflect this by centering on moments when Peppa doesn't do the right thing. Here's what happens, for example, when Peppa is trying to learn to whistle.
Can you whistle, Susie? No. Oh, good. I mean, that's sad if you can't whistle. But good, because I can't whistle.
Not exactly the response of a role model shaping young minds, but charmingly sincere. Peppa may be a flawed hero, but, or maybe therefore, she's crazy relatable.
What's whistling anyway? You put your lips together and blow. Like this. Hello, Peppa?
Peppa's relatable too in the circumstances of her life. She lives with her family, unlike a surprising number of characters in children's entertainment. The adults surrounding Peppa are loving and kind, but they are quite often portrayed as incompetent.
I know what I'm doing.
Or just plain ridiculous.
I know what I'm doing, Peppa. I'm a grown-up. Yeah!
Mark Barker, co-creator of the show, pointed out to The Guardian, "Our experience was that children don't like laughing at themselves, but do like laughing at their parents." So Peppa does laugh at her parents, quite a bit.
Blah, blah, blah. That's how daddies talk.
It's quite rare to see a kid's character, especially one aimed at such a young audience, to be placed in the context of a family and be a bit rebellious towards them.
First words I said to anybody was, well, Peppa is a slightly cheeky and bossy little pig, you know, and she still is to this day, if you like.
In fact, the show's creators say some parents criticize how cheeky Peppa is. But only a
Silly daddy
would think that Peppa's character flaws are just there to make parents miserable. What Peppa's stories are really doing, and wonderfully, I think, is pointing out, in terms accessible to the youngest of viewers, how difficult figuring out what's right can be, for anybody, young or old. When Peppa's grandfather takes Peppa and George to the playground, his attempts to regulate the lines for different rides run amok.
Everybody off.
But Grandpa Pig, I was actually here first.
Then you can get back on the roundabout.
It's episodes like these that made me realize that, like in film noir, where establishment comes into question, lines between good and bad become blurred, and the hero strays from the straight and narrow, Peppa's moral complexity is simply a reflection of the complexity of her world. Film noir was often about a lack of faith in the establishment and higher power, and Peppa's stories are often about the same thing. Peppa's just getting viewers started on moral gray zones and questioning authority a bit earlier.
I'm wearing glasses. Can I go on, please?
The children are making up their own rules.
I need to get them because I like carrots.
Turns out the world is so complicated that sometimes even the people in charge don't get it right.
How are you getting on, Grandpa Pig?
I'm confused. These playground rules are too complicated.
Perhaps this is why Chinese teens adopted Peppa as their cultural icon, in the continuing tradition of using animated characters as tongue-in-cheek ways of criticizing the regime. Winnie the Pooh was banned in China for his visual resemblance to Xi Jinping, but worries about Peppa's subversive influence arose, I think, because she's just very quick to call bullshit.
Does anyone know what these planets are made of?
They're made of cardboard.
Professor David Simmons, in his book The Antihero and the American Novel, touches on what he terms the innate conflict that exists between hero worship and true democracy, and points out that, as a reflection of this new mode of thought, the hero is replaced by a flawed but essentially spiritually intact everyman figure who allows for the empowerment of the individual. The point is, we love flawed characters not because they're bad, but because in not always being good, they're a little more like us. And they give us the hope that imperfect people like us can still make the world better. So perhaps it's not so terrible that Peppa, in all her cheekiness, teaches young viewers that the world is complicated, the people in charge aren't always right, and the key to success is strong opinions weakly held. After all, fixing everything that's broken in today's world will eventually be up to the kids.
Now, Grandpa, I will tell you how everything works.
Hey guys, thank you so much for watching. I had so much fun making this video, and there's many more coming. Hopefully there's more coming every other Tuesday, like I say in the banner. Also, I'm sorry if you can hear birds and planes in the recording. I don't know what to do about this. Like, it's a real problem. But anyway, please subscribe to see more of my videos.